and she said it was really positive and that I was really much more confident. An example of this would be we went through this the little scene in Everybody Out where I grab the phone and say Lisa Hopkins, and just little, even if the scene's like 5 seconds, I think it just made me realise that how confident I need to walk on and how confident I need to walk off, even if it's like a different I have a different thought or feeling. So I walk on really bright, and then when I'm belittled by Hopkins again, I saunter off like in a huff. But I always need to make sure that I'm like confident in the way I walk. And definitely my confidence grew, and that just like benefited my character in general. And she said that my whole like persona has improved, and I'm really happy with it. And there's just little things like timing that I just need to work on, and that I also need to master like walking in heels, because I've not worn heels in a bit. What are you going to do in rehearsal to improve on the feedback next week? Practice walking in heels so that I'm comfortable with like walking everywhere with them, because that will improve my confidence. And just because we've changed a lot of the blocking around for the better, I need to like remember it. And there's been times in the past where we've blocked it, and sometimes I forget little movement changes or how I'm saying the lines, and so I'm gonna what will you do in rehearsal to work on your feedback? Well, because I only kind of had feedback from my tutor, who I went with through basically all my scenes, most of the feedback was positive because we'd like worked through so much. So I think for next lesson it's all about just remembering every bit of movement, because I think in the past when we've blocked things, sometimes I forget the movement that I do or the hand gestures that I do or the way I say particular lines, and then I have to like think back, which can take quite a while. So I think it's just a case of putting it in the script, going over it in my head, and do little actions in rehearsal just before we start the scene, so that I remember everything, and I remember everything to the point where all the movement and the like vocal, physical and facial expressions I do comes naturally, especially if I put myself into like Lisa's shoes. My strength this lesson was probably my facial features, because I think I portrayed, especially in the duck egg scene, I portrayed that I was very like I was very frustrated with Mr. Hopkins, as I am basically every day, as I kind of used, as I made sure that my head was mostly turned away from him, as if I can't look at him, because he like looking at him just frustrates me even more. And I always make sure that my chin was up every time I spoke to him, and that I kind of, every time he started speaking, I would just roll my eyes. And I think I showed that through my physical expressions as well, because I fidgeted a little bit with like my leg that was crossed over my other leg, and fidget like just with my hands as if like I'm waiting for him to finish so I can say so I can speak my mind a little bit, even if I'm expecting him just to not pay attention, which is what normally happens, and that's what brings on kind of like the sarcasm. The second strength would probably be my posture when I'm sitting down and standing up, because that's what we normally worked on this lesson, and that's why my tutor got people to act how they would, and got people to see how they would act being posh and quite a little bit snooty. And so I based second strength would probably be my posture as well, because the main reason we went through all the scenes was to improve my posture, because my presentation appearance is really important to Lisa. And that's why Kerry got other people to pretend that they were like posh and snooty, so I had kind of like inspiration to base my character on. So from when she was sitting down and she was standing up, so when I was sitting down and standing up, I noticed a huge difference to the way I was sitting and standing. So I think it was really important to go through them, and I'm really happy with like how my posture's turned out. So now it's just about like maintaining it. I also think that my vocal expressions have improved, because I'm not only showing it in my face that I'm annoyed, but I'm also showing it in my through my vocal expressions. But for example, in the duck egg scene, I'm really I'm irritated as usual, and I'm kind of experimenting with low and high pitched tones, and I've tried to make sure that I'm always like, I'm just changing my volume at different points, just to show that it's not all one tone, which makes like the scene a little bit more interesting. My weaknesses, which I want to develop, would definitely be walking in heels, because at the moment, even though my posture's improved a great deal, I think the way that I'm walking is a little bit stumpy, and I think Lisa is supposed to be quite elegant, so I definitely need to improve that. And I need to, because there was so much blocking that we did, and that we changed quite a few bits, it's important for me to retain that and to not slip back into our old blocking, which would slow the process down, and that meant that I would need to that would like definitely affect my grade. So I'm gonna write everything on the script which we've changed, and just go over and over it, and ask Joe or Tooley or Rita to just go through with me like some of the scenes, to make sure that I'm not forgetting any of it, because otherwise, if I forget parts that have been blocked differently, then the people who I'm working with will be a little bit startled, because they'll probably remember it. So I think that's really important. Also, a weakness that needs to be improved for next week is my audience awareness, because especially in the scene with Rita, when I'm giving her confidence back, kind of before they go to Viva Respawn for the speech, there's a part where I turn her around and put her in the chair, and at this point I'm awkwardly standing in front of the table with my back basically turned away from the audience, so the audience will either get my full back or like the side, and maybe they will just won't be able to, they obviously won't be able to see like my facial expressions and what I'm doing kind of with my whole physical expression. So I think for next week I'm gonna actually walk around the table and then speak to her. So then that means I have the audience right in front of me, and then they can see everything that I'm doing. And it also means that I'm not stood at an awkward position, like as if I'm wavering between like the audience and Rita. So I'm talking to Rita, who's in front of me, and I'm talking to the audience who's in front of me.